Which controller should you buy for your drone? And is this controller worth $800 more than this one? In this video, we're going to be talking about two of the most popular drone controllers that you can buy. Now, if you're wanting something a little different than your standard controller that you connect to your phone and it can be really irritating, these are for you, and these are such a great option. Do you really need to spend an extra $700 to $800 on the RC Pro when this one's only 300 bucks? Now, the biggest difference between these two remote controllers is obviously the price, and that's gonna play a big part into whether you go with the RC Pro or whether you go with just the RC. Now, the RC Pro is gonna set you back $11.99 US, while the RC itself is only 309 bucks. That's a massive difference, but there are some key differences between these two remotes. The first difference is the size and the weight. Now, the RC Pro is a chunker. It's a chunky monkey. So it feels a lot heavier than the RC. The RC Pro weighs 680 grams, whereas the RC is 390 grams. But I wouldn't say that the RC Pro is typically heavy. It does feel good in your hands. Like, it's not too heavy for a day of flying. I do like the feel of it. It does feel a lot more solid than the RC. The RC feels very cheap, like it's plastic. It's super light. I think it's too light. It's great for travel. Like, this thing weighs 300 grams, so it's great to chuck in your backpack. If you're doing a lot of travel, this might be the one for you because it is significantly lighter than the RC Pro. Now, the next biggest difference between these two remotes is how bright the screens are. Now, the RC is 700 nits, while the RC Pro is 1000 nits. Now, I have to say from experience with using both of these remote controllers out in the hot Australian sun, the RC Pro is so much better in full sunlight. You can just see a lot more. You don't have to struggle to be looking at the screen, and that's not even at 100%. I run my brightness at around 50–60%, and I have no dramas looking at it on a fully sunny, bright day here in Australia. Whereas the RC, I've struggled a lot in harsh lighting conditions. It really is hard to see what you're looking at with that 700 nit brightness. Now, that's what made me buy the RC Pro, because I did have just the RC when I bought the Mini 3 Pro, and using that, it was okay. It was usable, and I would have been fine using it. But when I upgraded to the Mavic 3 Pro, I wanted this remote controller because I wanted to be able to see what I was doing. A few extra things that are different between these two remote controllers is that the RC Pro has a better file management system, so you can move things around within the remote controller, whereas with the RC, you don't have any file management system, so you can't do that. You can also run apps on the RC Pro, which is awesome, and you cannot do that on the RC. It'll automatically boot up into the DJI Fly app. Battery life on these two remotes are very similar as well, with the RC having 4 hours of battery life and the RC Pro having 3 hours of battery life. But like I said before, if you are running these two remotes at 100% brightness, they're only going to last you that 3 to 4 hours. I find it not necessary to run the full brightness on the RC Pro. I run it at about 60–70% and it lasts me ages. Another couple of key differences is the RC Pro has a faster processor. So when you're changing settings and fluffing around, this will happen much faster on the RC Pro. The RC Pro also has a HDMI out, where the RC has no HDMI out at all. Now, having a HDMI out on the remote controller may not seem like that big a deal, but if you're a professional and you're dealing with clients, having the ability to chuck a HDMI cable into the controller and put it on a bigger monitor so clients can see what you're doing is really, really nice. It's also really cool for live streaming, so you can use this as an extra camera in your live stream broadcast. Now, one of the biggest differences between these two remotes, and I'd say one of the most controversial differences, is the range that you can get on these two. So if you look at the specs on DJI, both of these controllers say they can do 15-kilometer transmission distance. I don't think you would ever be able to fly 15 kilometers away, but anyway. I have noticed a significant difference between these two remotes as far as signal goes. Now the RC Pro is going to be far better at penetrating through trees and walls and getting you a stronger signal because it has the quad antennas. So it has the two antennas that stick up and you can move around, and there's also two antennas built into the controller. Whereas the DJI RC only has two built in to the actual controller itself. So obviously you're going to get a better signal using the DJI RC Pro. And from experience, I have noticed a big difference. I did fly with the RC Pro when we went to the Great Barrier Reef, and I flew over 1 kilometer away and the signal didn't waver at all. And I have had instances with the RC where I've tried to fly not even 1 kilometer away and I've struggled with signal. So if signal strength is really important to you, I would say go with the RC Pro because it is super good. So which one should you buy? If budget isn't a problem and you want the best of the best, then go with the DJI RC Pro. You will not regret it. This is an amazing remote, and yes, it's really expensive, but you are paying for all those pro features in this remote controller. On the other hand, if you are on a budget and you cannot afford something like that and don't even see the need for it, if you don't need HDMI, if you don't need 1,000 nits of brightness and extra buttons for customization, then go with the RC. This is still an awesome remote. It performs super well, and I would recommend that everybody uses one of these remotes. Don't use that dinky little thing that you have to connect your phone to. I hate that thing, it's just so awkward. This gives you a much better flying experience using one of these screens. It really comes down to the features you think you might need. If you just want a basic remote to get you up and flying and be able to see a nice clear image coming back in without using your phone, go for the RC. But if you are more of a pro pilot and want all those extra features, then the RC Pro is for you. This is an amazing remote controller, and paired with the Mavic 3 Pro is schmick, mate. And that's it, hooroo, I'll see you in the next video.